The gleaming offices of Harrison and Maxwell Law stood 40 stories above Manhattan, where even the junior associates' offices were bigger than my apartment. But I wasn't in one of those offices. Instead, I sat at my paralegal desk, surrounded by towers of case files and the constant hum of fluorescent lights. "Still here, little sis?" The familiar mocking voice made me grip my pen tighter. "Burning the midnight oil with all that filing?" Michael stood in my cubicle entrance, his custom-tailored suit probably worth 3 months of my salary. My stepbrother hadn't changed since our parents' marriage 10 years ago. Same smirk, same entitled attitude, just with better clothes now. "These depositions need to be processed by morning," I replied without looking up. He laughed, that rich private school laugh that always made my teeth clench. "You know, when Mom married your dad, I thought maybe some of our family's ambition would rub off on you. But here you are, still pushing papers." I continued highlighting key passages in the Jensen merger documents, keeping my face neutral. Michael had no idea that every late night, every mundane task, was part of a larger plan. "The partner track meeting is tomorrow," he continued, straightening his Hermes tie. "Not that you need to worry about that. Some of us were born for greatness. Others." He gestured at my desk. "Well, someone needs to do the filing, right?" The Jensen merger documents in front of me held secrets he couldn't imagine. Secrets I'd discovered during those countless hours of just filing. "Anyway," he checked his Rolex, "don't stay too late. Those papers won't file themselves." He walked away, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble floor. As soon as he was gone, I pulled out my personal notebook. Not the standard legal pad the firm provided, but a small black moleskine filled with 6 months of careful observations. Times, dates, conversations, and most importantly, patterns. My phone buzzed. A text from Judge Harrison, the founding partner's father. "Everything ready?" "All in place," I typed back. "The evidence is irrefutable." I'd met Judge Harrison 6 months ago during a charity gala I'd worked extra shifts to attend. While Michael and his fellow associates were getting drunk at the open bar, I'd spent the evening discussing constitutional law with the retired judge. He'd seen something in me that night. Something beyond the paralegal label. What followed was a careful dance of mentorship and investigation. The judge had suspicions about certain practices at his son's firm. I had the perfect position to confirm them. Another text arrived. "Board meeting moved to tomorrow morning. Be ready." I looked at my reflection in the darkened window. The simple blazer and practical shoes that made me invisible in this world of power suits and designer labels. They never suspected that my endless filing had given me access to every corner of their paper empire. The next morning arrived with the usual chaos of a Manhattan law office. Associates rushed past with coffee cups and briefcases, secretaries juggled calls, and partners strode through it all like kings in their kingdom. "Big day, big brother?" I asked innocently as Michael rushed past my desk. He paused, adjusting his tie. "Partner track nominations. Not that you'd understand, but this is what real lawyers work for. Dad's already lined up the votes. By lunch, I'll be the youngest partner track associate in firm history." If only he knew what those lined-up votes had cost his father, what corners had been cut, what laws had been bent. "That's amazing," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "I'm sure you earned it." He laughed again. "That's your problem, sis. Always thinking everything has to be earned. Sometimes it's about who you are, who you know. Speaking of which, I'd better get to that meeting. These files need to be indexed by 3, okay?" I watched him stride toward the conference room, where the firm's leadership was gathering. His father, senior partner Maxwell, stood at the door greeting board members. My phone buzzed one final time. "Now." I stood up, smoothing my simple black dress. In my briefcase was 6 months of evidence. Proof of nepotism, hidden accounts, mishandled client funds. A pattern of corruption that went straight to the top. But more importantly, I carried something else. My law degree, earned through 6 years of night classes while working full-time. The bar exam results I'd kept hidden. The recommendations from judges and professors who'd seen past the paralegal label. "Excuse me," a firm voice called out. Judge Harrison stood by the conference room door. "We're ready for you." Michael turned from his conversation, confusion crossing his face. "Ready for who?" "Ms. Adams," the judge said, using my real name, not the diminutive little sis I'd endured for years. "I believe she has some matters the board needs to discuss." I walked toward the conference room, feeling Michael's stare. His coffee cup trembled slightly in his hand. "What is this?" he demanded. She's just a paralegal. Judge Harrison's voice carried across the now silent office. Is she? Perhaps you should have spent less time mocking her and more time checking the Bar Association's newest member list. The coffee cup slipped from Michael's hand, dark liquid spreading across the marble floor like the stain that was about to spread across his perfect future. I stepped into the conference room facing the gathered board members. It was time to show them exactly who they'd been underestimating all these years. The conference room fell silent as I took my position at the podium. 20 pairs of eyes stared back at me. Managing partners, board members, and Michael, who'd been hastily ushered to a back seat rather than his usual place beside his father. Ms. Adams, Judge Harrison nodded. Please proceed. I opened my briefcase, removing a stack of carefully organized folders. Each one represented a thread in the tapestry of corruption I'd uncovered. But first I needed to establish my credibility. Before we begin, I said, my voice steady, I should introduce myself properly. Not as a paralegal but as a summa cum laude graduate of Columbia Law School, ranked third in my class and as of last month, a member of the New York State Bar. Maxwell's face reddened. This is ridiculous. A paralegal can't just dash. I have copies of my credentials, I continued, sliding documents to the board members, along with letters of recommendation from 3 Supreme Court justices I clerked for during my night school years. But that's not why we're here. I clicked to the first slide of my presentation. We're here because while I was just filing papers, I discovered something disturbing about Harrison and Maxwell's partner track program. The next hour was a methodical unveiling of everything I'd documented over the past 6 months. Fabricated performance reviews, manipulated client billings, hidden nepotism in promotion decisions, misappropriated firm resources. With each revelation I watched the color drain from Maxwell's face. Michael had slumped in his chair, his earlier confidence shattered. This is outrageous, Maxwell finally exploded. You were going through confidential firm documents Documents I had full authorization to access as part of my paralegal duties, I corrected. Every single piece of evidence here was obtained legally and ethically. Judge Harrison can confirm that. The retired judge nodded. I've reviewed everything. It's all admissible and damning. I moved to the next slide. But this isn't just about exposing problems. I've prepared a comprehensive reform proposal for the firm's leadership structure and promotion practices. The proposal I'd spent months crafting appeared on screen. Merit-based promotion criteria, blind review processes, external oversight committees, enhanced ethical compliance measures. The firm's reputation is at stake, I continued. But there's a path forward. One that preserves Harrison and Maxwell's legacy while ensuring its future integrity. A senior partner leaned forward. And what exactly are you proposing for yourself in this new structure? I met his gaze steadily. I'm not asking for anything. My role will be determined by the same merit-based criteria I'm proposing for everyone else. No special treatment, no shortcuts. Unlike some people, someone muttered with a pointed look at Michael. Maxwell stood up, his face purple. This is a coup. She's trying to destroy everything we've built. No, James, Judge Harrison interrupted. She's trying to save it. The question is, are we wise enough to let her? I clicked to my final slide. The American Bar Association is already investigating 3 other top firms for similar practices. We can either lead the change or be forced into it. The choice is yours. The room erupted in heated discussions. I stood quietly watching years of entrenched power dynamics begin to crack. A senior partner raised his hand for silence. Ms. Adams, could you walk us through the implementation timeline for these reforms? Of course, I said, pulling out another folder. I've prepared a detailed transition plan. For the next 2 hours I answered questions, explained processes, and demonstrated exactly why I'd spent those years studying law while everyone thought I was just pushing papers. Finally, Judge Harrison called for a vote. All in favor of adopting Ms. Adams' reform proposal? Hands rose across the room. Even Maxwell, seeing the inevitability of change, raised his reluctantly. And regarding Ms. Adams' position within the firm? The managing partner cleared his throat. Given her legal qualifications, demonstrated investigative abilities, and clear commitment to ethical practice, I moved to offer her a position as senior associate, with fast-track consideration for junior partner. More hands raised. Michael stared at his shoes. One condition, I said, causing everyone to pause. The reforms are non-negotiable. Any attempt to water them down or circumvent them, and every document I've shown you today goes to the Bar Association. Judge Harrison smiled. I don't think that will be necessary. Will it, James? Maxwell shook his head, defeated. As the meeting adjourned, partners approached to introduce themselves, no longer as a paralegal but as a colleague. Their earlier condescension had been replaced by careful respect. Michael tried to slip out, but I caught him at the door. You were right about one thing, I said quietly. Some of us were born for greatness. But others? We earn it. Back at my desk, I began packing up my paralegal supplies. A message appeared on my phone. An all-firm email announcing the new ethics reforms and my appointment as senior associate. Judge Harrison appeared beside me. You know they'll make your life difficult at first. Old power structures don't change easily. I smiled, picking up a family photo from my desk, me at my law school graduation taken in secret last year. They've been underestimating me for 10 years. I'm used to it. And your stepbrother? Michael needs to learn the same lesson I did. Real respect isn't inherited, it's earned. As if on cue, Michael's father stormed past, barking into his phone about damage control. Behind him, Michael walked slowly, his earlier swagger replaced by uncertainty. I turned back to my packing, knowing tomorrow would bring new challenges. But for now, I savored the moment, remembering all those nights of studying after long days of filing, all the mockery I'd endured while quietly building my case. They'd thought I was just a paralegal pushing papers. They never bothered to ask why someone would choose that position in a top law firm while attending Columbia Law at night. They never wondered what I might be learning as I filed those confidential documents. Now they knew. The next morning, I arrived at Harrison and Maxwell to find my name being etched onto a corner office door. My new title gleamed in gold letters. Alexandra Adams, Senior Associate. Your Bar Association profile has been trending since last night, my former cubicle neighbor Sarah said as she helped me move my things. Youngest senior associate appointment in the firm's history. The office buzzed with whispers and stares. Associates who'd never given me a second glance now hovered near my door, trying to curry favor. Partners who'd barely remembered my name suddenly recalled mentoring moments that never happened. Ms. Adams. A timid voice interrupted. It was Jessica, the new paralegal assigned to replace me. Mr. Maxwell. Michael, he's been asking when you'll take your first case assignment. I smiled, remembering all the times Michael had dumped last-minute work on my desk. Tell him I'll be handling the Preston merger. Jessica's eyes widened. But, that's his case. He's been leading it for months. And now he'll be second chair. He can bring the files to my office in an hour. As Jessica scurried away, Judge Harrison appeared in my doorway. Making waves already, I see. The Preston merger has serious ethical issues, I replied, unpacking my law books, no longer hidden in my apartment but proudly displayed. Issues that Michael has been conveniently overlooking. Your stepmother is apparently furious. She's been calling the other board members all morning. I placed my law degree on the wall, finally public after years of secrecy. She always thought her son was entitled to everything. That's part of the problem we're fixing. The next hour brought a parade of introductions. Associates who wanted to collaborate, partners offering mentorship, and clerks suddenly remembering my coffee preference. Each interaction was a small reminder of how quickly power dynamics could shift. At exactly 10 a.m., Michael appeared carrying the Preston merger files. Gone was the designer swagger, replaced by barely concealed resentment. You can't just take over this case, he started. I've been working overlooking regulatory violations, ignoring disclosure requirements, and pushing through approvals without proper due diligence, I finished. Sit down, Michael. It's time for your first real law lesson. For the next 2 hours, I walked him through every mistake, every shortcut, every ethical breach I'd spotted while just filing his paperwork over the past months. How did you? He stammered. When did you learn law? While you were networking at cocktail parties, I was studying. While you were playing golf with clients, I was clerking for judges. While you were bragging about your future partnership, I was actually earning one. His face flushed. Dad won't let you . Your father doesn't have the power he used to, I cut in. And neither do you. From now on you'll earn your place here just like everyone else. The afternoon brought my first partner meeting. I sat at the conference table, no longer serving coffee but presenting case strategies. Maxwell Sr. watched with barely concealed fury as his colleagues approved my recommendations over his objections. By evening, news of the firm's ethical reforms had reached our competitors. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from other firms' associates, journalists seeking comments, and law school classmates who'd finally learned why I'd kept such a low profile. "Your father's here," Sarah announced. I looked up to see Dad standing in my office doorway, tears in his eyes. "You did it, kid," he said softly. "All those years of studying in secret, all those nights I worried about you working so hard. You knew exactly what you were doing." I hugged him, remembering all the times he'd defended me at family dinners when my stepmother and Michael mocked my lack of ambition. "Ms. Adams." Jessica appeared again. "The managing partners would like to see you. They're reviewing the Burton case and there are some irregularities." I grabbed my briefcase. "More corruption to clean up, more changes to implement. Tell them I'll be right there." "Alexandra," Dad called as I left. "Your mother would have been so proud." The next few weeks transformed Harrison and Maxwell. My ethics reforms exposed decades of questionable practices. Some partners resigned rather than adapt. Others embraced the changes, recognizing the shifting legal landscape. Michael struggled to adjust. Without his father's protection, his work showed its true quality. But slowly, reluctantly, he began to learn real law, real ethics, real responsibility. 1 month after my appointment, I sat in my office reviewing case files. A knock at the door revealed my stepmother. "I suppose you're enjoying this," she said bitterly. "Humiliating my son, destroying my husband's legacy." "Actually," I replied, "I'm saving the firm's legacy. The real one, based on legal excellence, not favoritism. Michael's welcome to be part of that, if he's willing to earn it. You've always been jealous of our family's success. No, I interrupted. I've always believed in real success. The kind that comes from work, not privilege. Maybe it's time you learned the difference." As she stormed out, I noticed Michael lingering in the hallway. He'd heard everything. Later that evening, as I prepared to leave, a document appeared on my desk. Michael's first properly researched legal brief. No shortcuts, no oversights, just solid work. At the bottom, he'd written a note. "I never knew what real law looked like. Could you review this?" I picked up my red pen, ready to teach rather than expose. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's education. 6 months later, Harrison and Maxwell had transformed. Our ethical reforms became an industry standard. Other firms scrambled to adopt similar measures. The legal press called it a revolution in corporate law culture. Michael eventually earned his place as a competent associate. Not through his father's influence, but through genuine effort. Our relationship would never be warm, but it had evolved into something built on reluctant respect. As for me, I kept the simple blazers but moved to a better apartment. My office wall now held not just my law degree, but articles about our reforms, awards for ethical leadership, and a photo of my mother, a public defender who taught me that justice requires both patience and persistence. The firm's holiday party that year was different. No power plays, no whispered deals, just colleagues celebrating real achievements. I watched from the corner, remembering all those years of silent preparation, of being underestimated and overlooked. "Quite a change," Judge Harrison said, joining me. "You didn't just earn your place, you changed what that place means." I smiled, thinking of all the young lawyers who could now advance based on merit, not connections. Sometimes the best victories aren't just personal. As I looked around the room, at Michael actually doing his own research, at partners mentoring based on talent rather than privilege, at young associates knowing they had a fair chance, I realized that success wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about making things right.